Good morning. How's it going? Okay, so let's get that money. It took me the longest time to understand what that meant, and no, I can't bring myself to even think about typing that in a pull request. Yeah, that looked good. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to mod Streamlabs in YouTube so I can enable the bot. I actually thought it was let's get that money for longer than I'd like to admit. Yeah, acronyms. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. YouTube Studio. Why is everything so slow today? Settings, channel, permissions. Community and adding settings, community, and adding Streamlabs as a standard moderator. There you go. Now you should activate. Stay activated. Okay. Then if we do timers, can we add a YouTube specific timer? No, you can't. Figure out that message later. Okay. Well, I figured as far as the PR goes, it was probably good to get you at least one PR approved in 48 hours. So yeah, that was why. Okay. Do your morale some good. Okay. Okay. So, yesterday. Liquid Sky. That's what we're doing. We're doing Project Liquid Sky. Building a sprint to yeah. The only thing I had was I configured control tower. I added the ID in there. I added the secret, etc. Started the app. It's like, nope, bad. And I realized I copied the client ID from Liquid Sky and not used control towers thing. So, like, yeah, you're an idiot. And then everything magically worked and everything was good straight out of the box. Okay. Allow developers to build a sprint. Yeah, it's completely my fault. I read the instructions. I just did the wrong thing. So I'm at the point. Well, I'm at the point. I've been slowly getting to this point the last couple of weeks, and the amount of extra work that's actually required is starting to become quite large. Every feature I add to this product yields the need to create many more features. So we added tasks. Well, now we've got the ability to task out a planning item. We can actually build out a structure for work. Now we need sprints. Well, we need sprints. Well, we need the ability to plan a sprint. We need the ability to start a sprint. We need the ability to um, understand what a workflow looks like. Move. What does what does it mean to have something completed? What does it mean to have a ticket in the backlog? What does that all? How does that all tie up? So now there's a whole lot more features there just around those components. Adding a task. Well, now the UI doesn't update, so now I've got extra work to make this usable. Otherwise, you have to refresh the screen, and that's a pain in the backside. So we've got extra work there. Is that stuff that could have been thought about? Yeah, and probably UI UX driven planning would have helped there because the UI UX would have said, okay, when you add this, then it should indicate that it's been added, and yeah, maybe not. But now there's no ability to do this because those tasks are associated separately. Um, the stores don't join, blah 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 blah. So those numbers don't come down um, when when uh when they're done. So there's a whole lot of extra pieces that make this app useful that are going to need to be done. But I can't concentrate on them. I can't spend. If I want to get the ideas in here, I've got to accept that things are going to start looking kind of rough. And I'm going to have to come back and do a lot of tidy up and a lot of cleanup and stuff like that. But is that something I should accept? Well, yes and no. Like the UI working and working nicely will show what the ideas are in a more clear fashion because it'll be easy to understand. But in the same, I don't have that ability. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be an uphill challenge, bit by bit by bit. What time is web active? YouTube, I stream. Um, every 30 minutes. I thought you could put so I'm going to continue building. I'm going to continue building these sprints out because I think it at least gives me some more questions to answer. But I highly expect within the next week or two to have to come back on this stuff and refactor or rejig some of this stuff based upon some of the other ideas. So last night I was sat thinking about this and I was thinking about the workflow. Sometimes you have work that ends and sometimes you have work that needs to go somewhere else or triggers the need for something else to happen. How does that work get tracked? How do teams that don't work in sprints track work, etc.? So it, one of the ideas here with the planning items is that these are not sprint oriented, right? They're not focused on um, the sprints. They're focused on the feature and the tasks associated with them. So adding more tasks could happen over time. When it's done, it's done. When you agree it's all done and everything's finished, yeah, you're fine. Um, because ultimately we probably end up with more here, like tracking the delivery of the work as well. So Dota and I kind of chatted about this and saying, okay, well, maybe there's an extra status, but I actually think delivery might actually be an extra concept. So the status completed means it's ready for delivery. Now delivery has an extra status, and because there might be more tasks associated, but should you lose them, is it fair to say, is this work complete, development complete, etc.? Is it, still a planning item? It's still, it needs to be planned until it's actually released. It needs to be planned, right? So, um, I've been thinking about this process a lot, especially the tasks, since Docha and I get into a conversation about the visibility of these. And a big component of this system is visibility, right? This doesn't necessarily mean development work. So one of the other things we talked about is the ability to introduce groups. So groups being like QA, development, DevOps, etc. And then being able to assign a task to a group so that you would understand the breakdown, which means these numbers don't have any value. So I think what I'm going to do, or they don't have any value directly because this is just a set of numbers that mean nothing anymore. So I think there's a status or there's some indicators or something like that. The FNDF found the line of code that says scripts render file name plus v plus GUID, and only said this doesn't make sense to me. If that's being compiled and that's what's delivered, then that's his cache busting. I mean, it's a bit weird. I mean, I think there's other tools to doing it, but yeah. I think you might want to figure out what the front end dev actually expected and what they're wanting to do and why it doesn't solve it currently. Like you said, there's a driving need for it, and that's worth figuring out. So yeah, if we have the concept of groups and the task can be assigned to a group, so you can know, is this a QA task, is it a dev task, right? One of the things we have is the QA effort is added into the sprint, but the QA effort might span beyond the sprint. Does that mean the work can't be done? No, it just means that this feature is delayed until that QA effort is completed. So maybe QA has their own sprints, or maybe QA doesn't have sprints and QA has a Kanban board, and when the work is completed, the QA task is generated, or the QA has the task and it's associated with the requirement, right? So we know what the QA effort to the dev task is. These are things that we're going to start to experiment with. And as I grow this feature, I realize that, there's a lot more involved in this. There's a lot of process that I'm basing my experience around. And I'm running the risk of making this overly complicated now because I'm kind of trying to solve problems on the fly. So at some point in the very near future, I'm going to have to stop. I'm going to have to think. I'm going to have to say, okay, what do we have? What are the firm goals? Does it achieve what my original vision was? How much effort is involved? And here's the next steps, and kind of plan it out. And kind of the stream title, I think I need to use this tool to plan this tool at this point. The reason I want to use the tool to plan a tool is because it'll tell me how much it actually provides me and where my deficiencies are. So far, I like this feature. I like the planning concept because the planning concept keeps it away from the actual development. It allows this to live beyond sprints. It allows this work to be understood as a whole and not to be componentized in little stories here and there and then tracked as an epic, and the epic has a name, etc. And you've kind of got to go through everything in the epic to understand it. This at least pulls that all together. It's tracked against a requirement and a requirement. So if a requirement doesn't exist, then something doesn't, you know, exist against that. And we'll get into whether there's, if there is a need to add a task to a planning item. I don't think so at this point, but we'll talk about that as we go. And maybe we'll find along the way as we go forward, we'll find some QA people. We'll find some UI UX people to go through this. Because again, I don't understand the best way of laying this out right now. I don't have the brain power to think about it. So yeah. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do the building of a sprint. And um, yeah, um, we're going to build a sprint. So allow developers to build a sprint. Let's check out Liquid Sky, new branch, feature, building out a sprint. Can you branch everything? No, it doesn't branch everything at once, does it, this way? Or does it? Does it do it against Liquid Sky? Yeah, it doesn't do it on Foundation. I'm going to do that just for clarity. It might be that that branch doesn't get updated right now. Okay, so that's issue boards. That's that. We don't need that. Control tower. We merge that. You can remove that. No estimates. That. Okay. So we start with a fun challenge. Let's talk about these things. Um, Create a new screen for the boards. A menu option should be visible from the task screen, offering access to boards. A button should appear on an empty page with add sprint. Okay. Relatively easy to do. We can probably knock that out pretty quick. But that's not where I want to go. Um, we've then got add a sprint dialog. When I click add sprint button, I should be presented with dialog offering the values. So we've got create a dialog, update store, update service to send a new sprint. We need to create a task for create endpoint for sprint, for add a sprint, create endpoint, create add sprint handler, um, create, we don't need the word create, it's redundant. Endpoint, new endpoint, add sprint handler. So again, if we were sitting down as developers, because the code follows a format, because there's a standard pattern to how the structure of the application works, these things should mean something. So even if we're not going into details how to do them, we should understand what we're doing, right? Validate, date time, not for current date, not Um, start after end. Um, and not more. No, we can't validate that right second. Hey Delta, good morning. I was thinking of scoping by section of code, like by folder. Okay. So the add sprint handler, and then publish integration event. So there we go. We now need to know. We now know we need to do that. Sprint. Right. Pretty much everything that we create in the system is going to end up with a need for an integration event because we're going to need to tell the UI that it exists. So at the bare minimum, a sprint is going to need a an integration event. So new endpoint, add sprint handler, validate the date time. So we need a validator on this one, which is a bit different to others, and publish integration event. Yep, we need that one. So that's that. And then to be able to validate that we started it, we want anything on the view side. Well, we can't assign because we don't get the view. So we need to say consume sprint to view, new receiver, new update sprint handler, store sprint, create view, update GraphQL. Right, that's that task, and then modify tasks. Task. So we need a few things here. Update endpoint accepts sprint grid. Update update handler, update task, capture sprint, publish integration event. So we need to update the task, so we need to provide the endpoint for updating the task. We need to create a new UI, update UI, provide sprint dropdown on task, update store, update service. So we need to publish the fact that we've selected that. There we go. So now that is going to look more complicated. Starting to think that these might get grouped under the actual planning item that they're associated with. We'll see as we get to growing the usage of it. There we go. So sorry, Doctor, my brain was like thinking through those items then. What do you mean by folder? Hi, Functional. How you doing? Security conference. Nice. How's that going? It might be too general a rule, but I guess just including what files will be modified, made, could be a developer task. So, like I said, with these tasks, right? In general, because the pattern of the liquid sky follows a very known path at this point. Like, oh, I need to update something. Okay, well, we have to modify this piece, then this piece, and this piece. There's three distinct areas, and for every single area, right now we know pretty much all the things that need to happen based upon whether you're changing it or whether you're adding to it. You know, so it's a known thing. So I should be able to use language when we're talking about the tasks to generalize the behavior and specialize where necessary. And if there's more rules there, then um, then we can do that. Can I send my boss to the conference so they can tell him at Mandarin Press what he says? 017. What are we brewing? We are brewing um, a a project planning and management application. So this is Liquid Sky. This is a project I've been building for the past year. It is for project planning and management. Um, we are currently working on adding the ability to start sprints. Liquid Sky is its code name, yes. I do not have a quirky product name to give it yet. It is being built as if it was being built with the intention of actually making it a thing. Um, it is quite a large application, a lot of distributed pieces, a lot of different technologies, and built basically because I don't like using Jira. But I am trying to approach this from a product. Products have their needs, and development have their needs, and being able to combine the two and share the information. Rambling Geek, good afternoon. How you doing? So, um, so the general concept of this platform is that planning product managers product managers when they're building when they're gathering requirements, when they're getting information together, we don't want them focused on the technical requirements. We want them focused on telling us why they're doing something. I'm sorry if I'm being rude, but I may know what accent that is. That this accent is a Northern English accent with 17 years of being in the US. So yeah, I don't want to remove PMs from the process. I want to enable PMs to be PMs without encroaching on the development side of things. Not said before. Regulations will require security training of all in the C-suite. Nice. So, yeah, Project Liquid Sky is an application built to provide effective tooling for product managers and management in general to be able to build requirements, specify their desires without tying them to the concept of sprints, etc. Um, it allows developers then to continue on using the sprint process, task things out. Um, no. So I am building this as if I'm building this with the intention that I would like to make it a product. So it is not open source. I'm happy. I stream it every day. There's 154 videos up on YouTube. So I stream most of what I'm doing. If you're interested in knowing more about the technologies, I'm happy to dig into them on stream and show things off. I'm not trying to hide anything. It's just I want to make it a product. Therefore, I need to keep it closed source. And also at this point, it is so big and unwieldy. As an open source project, it wouldn't actually make much sense. But it's not unwieldy in terms of the code is relatively clean. It's for the most part tested. It's just it is a bit of a large project to deal with. Currently at 79 projects, it looks the platform looks overall like this. It's all good. Don't worry about that. If you enjoy hanging out, if you have any questions, it doesn't, some of it might be more difficult, some of it might be easy to understand, but if you have questions, you're more than welcome to ask. I do not have to code on stream. If I can help and share, I will do. Mr. Jones, I'm going to ignore your troll because I'm in a good mood. I can see it. Good day. How you doing? So let's dig into this a little bit more. So we're tasking out adding the sprint. We're gonna have um so ZLS, by the way, the what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to use the application to build the application. So I'm dogfooding it bit by bit by bit. The idea being that I'm trying to test my own understanding of my own software and what I like and don't like. The UI is rudimentary. It is not what I want it to be. I would like to get someone to build a full UI UX workup for it at some point in the future. But for right now, it's functional with the idea of figuring out where the pain points are through using it. Yeah. Um, how's your video streaming coming along? Nice dig. Yeah. So I'm trying to build out the project by um, highlighting this. And what I've just identified, by the way, is there's clearly a deficiency if I'm planning out these tasks. So initially, what I intended to do is build a screen for um, wizarding this piece where I said, okay, well, I want to create tasks for this. And now I realize why I needed that feature or why I wanted that feature. I don't think it's the right feature, but I think it's the feature nonetheless. So I've had to open this window to keep track of the tasks I've built. Right. So by adding them one by one in here, this is great, but I don't see them. So we probably need to consider that usability. And ZLS, thank you very much for the follow. I don't think I said that. Again, you're more than welcome to ask any questions if you want me to look at any particular technologies in this. Um, as long as it's kind of on task with the entire concept, I have no issues with a bit of diversion. There is a Discord linked in the cards below if you're interested in joining the Discord. Um, there's you know, asking further questions, sharing projects, etc. is welcome there. I'm going to update my blog. We'll see if that happens. Who PMs the PMs? Well, right now I keep switching hats, right? So, and I'm bad at right now. I'm being bad at both jobs. So, clear deficiency. Um, in that we have to open this screen to keep track of these things we created to remember what we created. Maybe that's not a real problem. Maybe that's just a problem for me with no memory. Um, but there clearly is some benefit to having that there. Also, from a UI perspective, this as this scrolls down, we can see that there's some quirks that I need to get to and fix. Right. Um, okay, let's proceed and do something, eh? So first challenge. Yeah, before my blog, I thought I had very logical, well thought out arguments. After creating a blog, I realized I'm absolutely all over the place. Yeah. So we called this tasks, right? Because we create tasks and it fits. We're creating tasks, but now we have a backlog of tasks and we're about to create sprints. Are sprints still tasks or what is this now? So we call this tasks because it aligns. What is this now? Is this tasks? If I had sprints in here, what are sprints is for? Are they part of tasks or are sprints their own concept in in an overall concept? So I didn't do this deliberately, right? 100% honesty, I didn't do this deliberately. I was focused on tasks. I created it as tasks. Then last night, I actually started thinking about this and I started to look and think tasks is kind of a stupid name now because tasks represents the things we're creating in there, but there's a whole lot more things in there that's going to end up like we know sprints are going to be in there at the very least. Sprints are sprints a member of tasks, or is there a better concept to represent that entire thing? Um, there might be when we get to it. If we're representing DevOps and QA, we might end up with more Kanban boards, so they don't have sprints. So their boards might not be the same. Um, Tasks are going to be an interface, and both concrete classes are going to have different names. Apologies for ads. I need a command. I need a command. Hold on. Do I have one? Chat permission. Can I set? No, I can't set where it goes. Confirm. Ads. So that should do that. Yeah. Um, Objectives, action items, deliverables, to dos. So what's the question? I was looking at my blog briefly, pondering if I really have 6 articles worth of content. So I was talking about the fact that I labeled everything tasks, right? Because again, that's all I was focused on. That's fine. This is all labeled tasks. These are tasks. These are backlog. But now I'm going to introduce sprints. Hello. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. It helps support the channel and it helps it grow and get more exposure. Likes do drive more views to videos on YouTube as well, by the way. So, yeah. I almost think the tab title should be sprint. So we're gonna add. We're gonna add. Let's add the UI. right? Building out a sprint. We have tasks. So the one thing I'm definitely highlighting here is I am not afraid to change this, right? I'm not afraid to change this code to support this new requirement, right? The naming, it all needs to be changed if we decide that. But it dawned on me that I've called it tasks, and it's not a great name. I also don't like building out tasks too deeply. Deeply in terms of where you might have a bunch of planning items for the next year. Doing that for tasks will cause a lot of noise. So the idea would be that you might build out these for the next year, right? You might have placeholders and they all have review dates. Again, don't forget the review date is a concept that I want to really hold to, is that this review date will help organize when things should be prepared and when things should be next touched, etc. So if you've got to work on something by July 1st, then you might want to set the review date to the beginning of June, because you need to bring it up and start prepping for it. But the actual tasks should only really happen about a month or two out, right? Tasking for the project should only happen several sprints ahead. So realistically, you should have a moving window of tasks. You shouldn't be planning tasks out for a year. Why did that not like, huh? Interesting. Focus. You're trying to think of names for what this is. A task that's current is a focus. Okay. It's funny you put the quotes and it prevented the prompter from seeing it. Having an epic float around isn't a big deal. The 30 tasks for that epic will be a lot of noise. Right, which is why I think that this does work, because this stops this. So in Jira, if you put out a year's worth of stories and epics, etc., they clog up the board. So this way, the planning items remain planning items, and they come into visibility based upon the review date, right? They have alerts, they have notifications. That's kind of the focus. Well, I mean, ultimately, the planning from a focus perspective, you shouldn't be pulling more than one epic into any given single sprint. If an epic is something you're going to work on in a sprint, then you should be pulling in any more than one, because again, focus, right? And if it's truly epic sized, there should be enough work for everyone to work on it. That was accidental, by the way. One, two, three. So anyway, we build the UI. So we need a new component. Um, Again, if you're new to the stream, and things don't make sense, you're more than welcome to ask questions. Doesn't matter if it's what does that do or how do you do this. It's fine. Sprint. Backlog, sprints. Let's just do sprints for right now. One day I'll not write skip tests and I'll actually do the tests, but I have no brain power to work on that as well. So in our routes, we want path sprints component, sprints works. So now when we go here, no, we need a menu entry. We need in our layout. So the layout for tasks. That becomes sprints, sprints. This is using pi. This is using MNG, dark mode, icons, prime icons list. And epic is a grind. Oh. Oh, got no little guy. There you go. High bolt. I was hoping for a little running guy, and that required me to do the motion then as well. Okay. So there's our sprints. Sprints work. So now we have sprints. Ta-da! We've done a task. We can go here. New screen for boards. I got it boards. So I've got sprints in my head. It's actually boards. As much as I'd like to make that, let's do it correctly. We've failed the requirement. We've failed everything. What? Boards component. That's boards. Boards. I failed already. You're in some fun today, Mojo. 6 to 12, no. Boards works. So as much as I'd like to use the icon, we'll get back to using the icon, because that's definitely but it does make sense, because then if I have users that use Kanban versus Sprint, then what Kanban versus yeah. Uh, let's go here. Let's go here. We use clipboard. It's a bad icon. That there's no real good icons for this. I have one project with no tasks, and another project with no repo. Now I'm off to work. Delta, thank you very much for joining. Thank you, and good luck with the articles. You get that. You get that sorted. Let's use PyTable. Please stop using that. So, okay, there we go. Boards, and then we'll add sprint. So, our task: create a new screen for boards. Create a screen for boards. Add a menu entry. Introduce button. So we need to add a button that is add sprint. P button icon equals I bolt. We're getting in there. What? It's probably that. Great sprint. Size equals Oh, no, that's fine. Um, is that because I've got the icon on there? Yeah, it's because I had the icon. Um, Severity equals. Go that far in a second. Size equals small. There you go. Okay. So we have a button on our page. We have a boards. We have a button on our page. We can go here, create a dialog. No, create a new screen for boards. So we've done that. We've done that. We've done that. This is complete, right? Create a dialog in progress. So we can do some of these things without actually doing any work, but it doesn't, I'm just dodging the problem right this second. So apart from the whole grind, epic, task, focus, etc., the problem is that this is called tasks as a planning area, as an area of the software rather. This is referred to as tasks. Yet tasks are a concept underneath this entire thing because boards, if I'm going to create a sprint, where does that belong? Right? So if I'm thinking about, again, these aren't microservices, these are components. So, by the way, if I call that work, that's going to be offensive. If I show the diagram off, because what's planning? Is planning not work? Right? Um, Development is too general, right? Um, so what is this concept we treat as the the tasks to be done, the organization of their timelines and their flows, because burn down charts, etc., would live in here. Where PM creates is no work. Um, Again, we're not going to be offensive. We might not consider it the same work, but it is work. Um, so um, yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to wrap my head around. So yeah, um, but this is a generally open question. If you have an opinion, you're more than welcome to share the opinion. I am genuinely asking this question. So again, right now our component is tasks, and tasks has tasks, right? Which works because we were building tasks. There's no reason to think about that in any other way. Now, you might think that you have to spend a long time figuring out the naming, but this is just a name. I can reorganize this. I can change this. This is not a challenge. Um, to all the PMs reading this, I understand why you exist. I'm on a team of children, and a parental manager would be nice. That would be awesome if any actual product managers did stop in the stream. That would be that would be good to see their perspective on this. But we have um what do we call this? Because task is not correct. It's not representative of what this feature does now. This feature is going to be more, right? Um Now planning. this is planning, and planning has planning items, it has requirements, it has all those things, right? So as a concept, this is planning. This is fine. This is not tasks though. These are tasks, or these are probably more what we call stories. These are just the technical aspect of those stories, right? Um, what am I? Oh, primary. That's what I should make it. Primary, not success. Yeah, that's the primary one. Um, that's the standard. We don't have an add task button up here yet either. We did have an add task button. We just seem to have removed it. Yeah. So, what is the name for this piece? Because now it matters, right? Before it didn't matter. When it was just called tasks, it was fine because it just did tasks. But now it does sprints, or it does boards, and it does sprints. The boards drive the need to create a sprint. Sprints isn't an actual thing here because there's no need to manage sprints independently. Like that, they are managed through here in the boards. Right, the second. Again, that might be something we pivot. Because initially when I actually had the original diagram, this was called chart. Or story. It's called story, but that's not correct, right? It's not tasks, but I need a name. I need. Do I need a name right this second? To proceed, I don't need a name, but I'm going to blur the lines when I add in the sprint. So let's just move forward. Let's just do it. Okay, so let's do our commit. What do you change? Oh, let's not move that. Headaches, paychecks. Oh dear. Introduce boards, screen, and add create sprint button. So technically, as that was a task, that was a feature. Yes, that took a few minutes, but that could now be merged back because it does add, right? As a feature, it could be enabled or disabled if we had the right feature flag stuff in there. But that would take, there's the few minutes, right? Publish integration. One task job assignment. So so again, what I'm looking for is a name to describe this overall component, this overall set of things that are related to. The funny thing is, it is related to getting the work done. This is work because, or development, but development will be too general a term, right? Um, we have planning. Planning, you lay things out, and then you create tasks. Tasks become uh, things to be worked upon, and then boards organize your timelines. Mission. But you can see why I keep coming back to the word work, right? Because it is I just don't want to be. I don't want to be offensive with it and make it sound like that's the only thing where things get done because it's not. Planning and work are both work. So yeah, we've unused using this for integration publish. I looked up synonyms for tasks and it's slim pickings. See, when you actually have, when you merge these two concepts together, there's no worry about the names, right? Because it is their stories, their boards, whatever, right? Um, Stream content. But yeah, it's animal already. uh, um, for those that don't know, that's funnier to me because that is a thing I hate to see in code. Um, so it's frustrating to see to dos in code. Um, Work because it's not stories; they're not actual stories now. That's why I'm trying to avoid the word stories. Stream content. um, Now an active I. It's not easy, but we don't need it. We don't need it to proceed. We just need to like consider it overall. Um, so what's this task? Create new screen. We've done that one. Create dialogue. So we're going to create a dialogue that's going to pop up, and we're going to add a sprint and do the things, do the magic. Interface. Just leave it vague. Yeah, we're going to need a name. We're going to need a name for it eventually. We can't just call it tasks. Because again, if it's called tasks and we have a concept called a task, when you, if you're new to the code and I say go look up how we validate a sprint, it's not going to be sensible for you to go look for tasks because you know that tasks is a concept. If I say go and look at the planning item requirements, I'll go and look at the requirements, and we've already established that requirements is a concern of planning, not necessarily tasks, which subject to change. Then, um, yeah, then you'd know to go to look for planning. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for it to be kind of logical. Again, attachments. If I say go look up how we upload an attachment, there's a component of the system called attachments. It should be pretty obvious. If I say, hey, go and look up how we manage the tenant addresses, it's pretty obvious. And when we get to ticketing, that actually should be more, at this point, that should be more that, right? That's called ticketing, not support ticketing, but that should technically be that. Um, but again, you should know where we're going. We have DB tables for assignments, assessments, and exams. 203 are unused. Uh-huh. And they should be deleted. So, okay, let's move forward, and then we can do. So we're going to do a dialogue. So the tasks, views. So tasks became a dialogue in shared eventually because yeah, that's not good. Dialogues. Add task. I think I can get rid of some of these as well. Um, yeah. Yeah. Some of them I'm gonna have to get rid of. But for the sprint homework, oh, that's an examiner DB. So, on that concept, that is why you shouldn't be afraid of changing things in your code, right? Don't just assume because it's there, it's right. If it's just because it's hard and it takes more time, doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. So in this instance, right, I know this is hard. I know I've got this established. I know I've written a load of code already. And renaming these will actually take time because I have to rename folders, I'll have to rename projects, I'll have to rename references, I'll have to make sure everything's correct and align all the namespaces. There's a chance of making a big mess in the code here. But it's worth doing because it moves the software forward and it establishes a better pattern. Calling this tasks is not going to be acceptable because there is a task as a concept in the tasks component, but then where do um, sprints live? Where do Kanban boards live? Where do we're going to get to groups. Where do groups live? Do groups live at tenant management? Do groups live like there's sorts of patterns that we need to establish, and naming this is going to be difficult, but doesn't mean that I should, you know, I don't want to create a component called sprints, right? There's no need for a component called sprints because they are like concepts. Tasks cannot live without sprints or Kanban boards or whatever. So those concepts live in this component. This is not microservice. This is modular monolith. So yeah, that's what the rewrite is for. Yeah, you can hope that you can make it last, and then but the problem is when you go to do a rewrite. And I know you're joking. I know you're adding that in there as a joke. But when you go to do a rewrite for the purpose of making it explicit, the same concepts carry through, or the mistakes you made, because you're more likely to just repeat what was there and not question, oh, why do we have this field on this table? You're just going to represent that again. Oh, no, it's that time, is it, bud? Is it time for Loki time? Okay, come on. Come on, bud. Hello. 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 It's Loki time. Hello. Hello, pal. Sorry about this. It's Loki time. How you doing, bud? Yeah? Hello, my friend. Hello, my friend. Hello. Hello, my friend. Oh. So, apologies for the interruption. Loki wants to come and say hello. Oh, he's going to lie down. Okay, we're doing this now. Is this how we're doing this coding thing? We're doing this coding thing with the 40 something pound animal on my lap? No? What's the waggy tail for? What are you doing? So, you make it very difficult to talk, bud. What's this up here? What's this? Are you not even going to look at people? Loki. Loki. No. No, bud. Oi, get off the desk. Okay. Okay. Man. Okay. So I do apologize. It seems to be that Loki makes this his daily thing now. Right? About 8:15 is time for Loki to come up and annoy me. Right, bud? Okay. You want belly rubs? He's just happy. I don't know how well I can be heard. I do apologize if I can't be heard at all. He's just happily sat here. Plans? Plans for me writing more code? Or naming for that component. I should have nothing to do right now, so I'm still on the search for the perfect synonym. I'm tickling your belly. You want to sit there like a blinking statue, not really helping me very much. Because you can't code much, can you? No. You didn't go to programming school. I'm not sure we went to obedience school either. Um, so actually, on the topic of work, and I'm not going to call this, I'm not going to call this what it is, but really, this is execution. So, or implementation. If you go to Good Boy School, D sharp, D for dog. um, is this implementation or execution or a synonym of execution? Um, is that the area? No. Your sister's eating my headphones. Let's not lick the expensive headphones. um, yeah. I think I'm going to have to figure out a dog cam and give them some more space because that might help them settle down more. But refactoring this code feels like an execution. Um, hello, I'm here. This is me. My head's here. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, bud. Okay, you want to go outside now? You want to go outside and go play? Do you want to go get dirty and roll around in dirt? Yeah. Run across my pool cover like it's a racetrack? Okay, I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry about that. I liked this low profile arm at first, but now I don't like it very much. It doesn't sit right. If you move it once, it just sags. We might be hosting improv practice tonight, and there are a couple of PMs on the team. I'll see what they say. Yeah, yeah, I was a fan, but I don't think I am anymore. I don't know if the newer one's better. Um, and that's what. Yeah, okay. Don't need to point out the humor in that. Okay. Um, dialogue. So for the boards, the sprint dialogue, we don't have any need for it outside of this right this second. So I'm going to create a components folder at this level. Again, my convention for when and how I create things inside of um, Angular is just kind of, I make it up as I go along. Yeah, Amanda's the same. We now know the real reason they released the Pro. Yeah, with better locking bolts, right? Add sprint. I've got to determine whether I want to say add or create sprint dialogue. I keep saying add dialogue and then using the word create. Um, huh? Although I have a tag labeled for later. I don't know what you're talking about. Where? On your board. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. There's so much to do. Yeah, for later is yeah, because I started actually uh console distributed lots. I started tinkering with that because it that will be useful because if we build out the distributed services, the the acquirer needs a distributed lock and it gets messy. But you can't really test it without being able to scale the service out. So that's why it's on hold. Um, requirements going to be like gun. Okay, focus it on. It's all good. It's all good. Um, so this is an inconsistency. I've got to decide whether I'm going to use create or add. What we'll do is discuss standards at one point, and then again, teams get stuck in figuring these things out, talking about them all the time, and never making a decision. It's useful to make a decision. And if the source code is underway and you've made a decision, we're going to say it's create, or we're going to say it's add, or whatever. That standard should be understood when you go to do the tasking. you just see me do it a few times where I've got slightly diverted on whether I'm going to call it a create or whatever. Because this is create. Um, yeah, create dialogue for adding a sprint, right? Is it not that, right? Is it not dialogue for creating a sprint? Trigger when button click, right? So being consistent is hard, but then when you find that you're not consistent and you want to make it consistent, taking the time shouldn't be scary to go through your code and refactor and reorganize so that the consistency appears. And if you can't do it as a general task, make sure you do it as part of a story or an effort. Like create for new tasks, add should be for moving it, add to sprint. Yeah. So yeah, we've got a whole ton of stuff there coming. So now let's go and look at this components, dialogues, add task. That will probably cause a problem. By the way. Oh no, it didn't. It refactored it properly. So I make the actual component the dialogue, so I can just embed this in a page. And what I'm starting to realize is I have some pretty common behavior in here. So yeah, create sprint. We don't need requirement identifier on this one, so that's fine. We don't need that. We do need a visible. Is visible Boolean false, and form group edgy on init. I wish if you did this, this dot form group equals new form group. I wish if you did this, it automatically knew that you were meaning to do that. Yeah, if you are watching on on YouTube, don't forget to, if you're liking it, like the content, and also subscribe for more. I don't like the promotion part, but and I got to figure out to say that cleaner, but it does help get more people into the stream. It does get more exposure. YouTube does promote it more. If you don't like it, say nothing. But it does get more people in here. And the more people I have, the more opinions I can gather and see if this does help people. So I'm kind of community building. If you don't like it, say nothing. It's a tough balance. Got to do it. I've got to do it. Like, comment, subscribe. Stranhorn. Good day, sir. How you doing? A hard balance. Very hard balance. We know it's going to have a title. We've said it's going to have a title, right? We didn't sprint name, goal, start date and time, end date and time. Nice. Refreshed is good. Refreshed is very good. So this is definitely sprint title. Well, I renamed it it did it all for me. Div form. Is it the title? No, it's a name. Name, goal, sprint. Rename all of them for me, please. No. Sprint name, 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 name. I spent the whole weekend building a VTuber 2D tool. Nice. That's the word to use. uh, Really fun to flex some desktop skills and how hard file management for desktop mobile is. Down some hoops and restrictions. Wow. Practicals. We are brainstorming a little bit today as we go. Um, my That's interesting. So we've got this tasks component, right? But now we're adding sprint board, or we're adding boards right this second and creating sprints. Um, Practicals will really drive home the point. It just needs to be good enough. But obviously we've called the component overall tasks right this second. So I'm trying to figure out a better name that represents tasks in here. And realistically, I don't want to use this word. I don't want to use the word work because everything's work, right? Even planning is work, ticketing is work, tenant management, attachments, etc. They're all work. It really is more about the execution, but I'm not calling it the execution component because that sounds harsh. So looking, kind of trying to figure out roughly what this component is, because tasks and sprints and boards, etc., will live underneath this component because they are all related to the execution of the work. So right now it's called tasks, but tasks is a concept within the component now, rather than just being all about the component. So yeah. Also, I've called this name slash goal, but I've called this name. Do we want to call this name or goal, or do we want to say it's just the name and it can be your goal? I think that makes more sense. So let's create name is a new form control and is validators. What's that? What's that? Whoa. No, that's because that's not an array, that's an object. That's an array though. Right? What am I doing wrong? Oh, how I do TypeScript. Achievables, pragmatic. I don't know. I don't know if you're taking this very seriously. Um, okay, let's get the button wired up. So we're gonna have a button for sprint. And the way this is going to work is we're going to do app create sprint dialog. Right. Dingling. Default, it becomes standalone. That's not what I want. I need that to be create sprint dialog component. And also this is probably created as standalone. I don't want that. That needs to all go away. That needs to go in boards component. Right. I stumbled down a wiki rabbit hole on pragmatism in philosophy. Bet that hurt. Okay. That should still work. I had the all models are wrong wiki up. So now we need to do this is going to be create sprint dialog. And then here on click equals create sprint dialog dot show. So then we go here, create sprint. Ta-da! We have a dialogue. Great dialogue. Um, yeah, if you're new to the stream, you are just joining. I am building a project management and planning tool. And right now we're focused on actually building out the components of what is a sprint. If you are interested and you want to know more, you're more than welcome to ask. I'm happy to discuss and show components and discuss more. So don't feel that you just have to sit there and watch. You can interact. Whether you understand everything I'm doing or not, it doesn't really matter. You can ask questions. So let's have the extra fields on here. I like the idea that we're building off the requirement, because this stops us from just duplicating this as requirements, right? We know what's driving this. We can add more. We can add more clarity, and this does give us a reference back to what drove this need. So we need start date and end date. Start date time. Form control equals new form control date. New date. Start date is required. Yep. Start date. This dot. End date. Going to be super explicit that it is including time. Whether I want to do that in the end, I don't know, but we'll find out. No, we're not doing description this time. Can you do me date time field? Start date time. Don't think you quite got the date time field part because you said text, but we're okay. What do we use on planning? Item detail. Add planning item. Oh, we got it close. So we did start date time. Now have help on that one. Aria. Okay. Start date time required. Let's see if that works. That is a hideous date time picker. That is a truly horrendous date time picker. Seen some bad ones. Suppose we can change it there. Oof. That is not good. Let's copy and paste that for end. And then just replace the word start with end. So that's start date, date. Do we need to specify? I think we kind of understand that. That's implicit. Okay. One of the things we can do here is we can add a validator. I know that for the date and time being off. I still will put validation on the server side for this because the API, it matters very much to the API, right? So I'm going to still put a validator on the server side, but the client side can have it as well because again, the client side is not necessarily uh, the final version, right? You could do different things, and the API is the API. Angular form validation, date time greater than other date time. Start date, end date, on date change. But there's validators, isn't there? Can I use validators? Isn't that what validators are for? I thought that's what they were for. What? I'll just validate that. But the validator doesn't get given the form, the validator gets the field. But could I do a validator at the form level? Us pragmatic developers, I'm more of a nihilistic developer. First validators for template driven forms. Yes, I need a validator there. Okay, so I can do something like that, right? So that's what I want. Um, so uh, let's do functions, shared validators. TypeScript, date, start, end date, validator. We'll go with that for right this second. Export function, start, end date, validator. That kind of works. Hey, Albedo9. How are you doing? What am I working on today? Today, I am working on my project management tool. So we have an application built for planning software or for planning anything really, doesn't matter about software, and tasking out the requirements of that thing. Right now we're focusing on creating sprints. So I've spent a lot of time in Agile and Scrum over the past 10 plus years of my life, and have my own opinions as to how things should work. So I've been building this software. Basically, I stream to share the development, to share the challenges, the building a large application, which part of it needs Kafka. This part of it needs Kafka. So the way it's built is the application is split up into components, module and monolith. The client creates data, sends through APIs. Those APIs store the data and then produce Kafka integration events through Kafka, which are consumed by other components of the system, such as the view. So the view is a GraphQL API sat on top of its own SQL database, so it can be optimized for the query. So that consumes these integration events and populates this data store. These data stores are really just they capture the data and trigger the events so that these are the sources of truth. Other things that go on, calculating changes, doing notifications, gathering detail, doing communications, etc. So heavy use of Kafka. Some use of Mass Transit and RabbitMQ in Service Bus as well. I don't like using Kafka to have. I don't like using Kafka as a service bus. I'd rather have RabbitMQ configured for that. So yeah, that is why Kafka. So each of these components is standalone. Each one has its own eventing internally and then publishes shared events for integration. And yeah. So not a monolith. So what we're working on right now is creating a sprint board. We're just adding some validation rules into that piece. So can you specify names? Well, let me do that. And if cool. I like Kafka over actual service buses if you just have one simple direction, just have simple one direction messaging. To me, I like Kafka because I can produce data and not care about who's gathering that data right this second. So I can extend the system without changing core components of the system. So if I want to introduce search without doing some, like if I want to do rudimentary search, I can use GraphQL, right? But if I want to do specific search, I want to build a search index later on, I can seed the data and then consume the Kafka messages to get future data, right? So I can add an Elasticsearch instance in later on and then hook up through the API gateway an actual search API without changing view, without changing any of this other stuff. Um, and that's why I like Kafka very much because I think it provides a lot. So yeah, so quite heavy use of Kafka. I mean, we don't have a lot of topics right this second, but changes and everything publishes back through here. All the tasks. I'm using this to publish state. So I'm not trying to use it as a service bus in any way. So the state comes with, you know, this is the current status object. It does come with a why it changed, an event source, and some additional information. But it doesn't come with, it's not an event like the task was updated. It's just, it has an event source to it, why it was triggered. But these are current state of the object. Um, if names.length less than 2, return null. We're going to do something bad there, but that's fine. If start date and end time and start date is greater than return start date, end date true. Right back. Sorry about that. Zeki93, thank you very much for the follow, by the way. Appreciate that. We are one away from 1,100 followers. So, yeah, in general, if you are interested in what I'm doing, if you want to ask questions, I am absolutely fine to discuss why or how. And I'm open to opinions on if you feel I am not using something correctly or if I differ in how I'm approaching things. This software is being built because I have opinions on the failings of teams to gather requirements, to ask questions, to identify what the actual work is and figure things out. So this is all coming from a place of trying to solve a problem that I feel exists without trying to change the actual workflow overall. Right? I'm not trying to introduce anything new as far as that goes. I'm just trying to change the perspective. Morning, Napalm. How you doing? Going to assume that that is the conversation you're having with Mojo. Okay. So we got if start date time and end date time is great. Start date is greater than end date time. Then return. When return true. figure that out in a minute. Because that's not quite the same as that, is it? That's is range valid, null, date range true. So end to get time minus start get time equal to 0. Then end minus start. Right. Finally goes to the machine this morning. CI/CD process you. I think it was named more because of their love for rather than I mean so yeah. There's no link with that. Like there's no quirky behavior within Kafka to yeah, whatever. So why doesn't validate FN? So they're saying that, and that's saying, oh, okay, that's why I'm misunderstanding how they're using that. So they're returning the function. So this is the function. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm just misunderstanding the use. Um, so that would be validation errors are null. So that's how they're doing it, right? They're doing that is the validator function that returns the function inside the state. So brain. So can I do the validator FN that is return form, which is a function that does that. Okay. I'm getting it. You're saying Apache Kafka isn't Kafkaesque. I haven't read enough Kafka to understand, to be honest. But as far as I know, they only named it Kafka because they love Kafka, not because of their design of the software. So that is my understanding. We still haven't solved the core problem though. By the way, we still haven't solved the core problem. So to begin the stream, we started talking about the name of these components. So the idea is the components. Again, I'm not trying to create microservices here. I am creating a modular monolith. These components as a whole have their behavior that they collect their data. They have everything they need to solve their problems. This tasks component is currently called tasks, and within tasks we have tasks, but now we're going to add the boards and the sprints and the boards, etc. The management of those things is going to belong under this component. Essentially, this is execution. This is the planning and execution phases, right? That I'm representing as part of this piece. Well, this can't be called execution. That's not a great name. Extremely unpleasant, frightening, and confusing meeting time. Fun mojo. Zookeeper does raise these emotions in me. I had the misfortune of maintaining a misbehaving Kafka cluster. Zookeeper is something they are still trying to get rid of, I think. Because the idea is that the brokers just communicate with themselves. So you have no need for Zookeeper because you don't need the orchestration component. But Zookeeper still continues to exist. I can't understand when they're going to get rid of that. I need to, as I get closer to actually looking to release this, um, I'll have to spend the time to dig deeper into Kafka administration, understand those components, understand what I am. What's he doing, bud? Leave the bag alone. Come sit down. I have a dog here. I'm not crazy. I'm just talking to myself. But understand more about what I need, and you know, because the intention would be, to release this product, I'd go to Confluent Cloud rather than using my own managed Kafka instances, because that would be expensive. But understanding it is a key fact. So, um, return is not assignable to validate a function. Why is that not assignable to validate a function? Return form, return null. Form and control are incompatible. Form group. By the logic, I am too. I talk to myself all day. Should I scare where anyone else? um, type abstract. Types of form and control are incompatible. Because that was call control. But that doesn't matter. They changed how this works, and that's the challenge. I mean, this is Angular 14. But we should validate it. There's no need to not validate. Well, there's no excuse to not validate this piece. It's a trigger certain things automatically. 14. Well, Angular 19 releases next month. Don't forget they release 2 versions a year. Really, dog? Yeah, chew that thing. Um, Control, abstract control. So it's form group, not abstract control. Form group T control extends abstract control any. So do I need to specify any there? I don't think so, because that's implicit. It's worth it to get up to 18 for the new tool building. It's much faster. So it treated I know what you meant there, insane law. It treated insane as bullying. That's why it held that comment, by the way. I hate to say it, but this is why React is probably the TSJS way. I'm not happy about it, but it is what it is. Pros and cons. Pros and cons. For reference, client-side code is nowhere near my strong point. It is something I just do. I try and figure out as I go. I try and learn. I try and get better. My my randomness is form and control is not valid. So is it that causing it? No. It's not the fact that I'm doing that that's causing it. TS ignore. I don't like what you're telling me. Leave me alone. Uh, the future of client is Blazor, and then I'm never going anywhere near the client. because I do not enjoy Blazor. It is Microsoft's confusing. It's its own confusing mess, and you're not selling me on anything by saying, "Well, you can use C sharp." No. um, Validator function Angular 18. Give me tutorials. Again, each to their own. If you're productive, I don't care what you use, but if you're in a company, you have to validate function control, abstract control. So their example does that. Custom validators, reactive forms, implement validator. No, it's template driven forms though. Reactive forms, forbidden name validator, but they still do abstract control there. And then that, but then you've got control. Oh, control exposes get, and it just happens to be a form. Okay, joy. Not far away from JS and TS at all. It's just TypeScript with DI. eh, I think again, I think that the we're never gonna all agree on what is the right tool. We're never gonna agree on because we have our preferences, we have our understandings, and you know, um, I don't like using React because the way that React lays out doesn't read right to me. Well, you don't need to do anything. It's an opinion, and again, in a team, if the team agrees on using React, then the team should use React if they're comfortable using React. Because again, what can you be most productive with matters more. If you've got a bunch of people who have React experience, then picking up Angular isn't the right thing to do. If you're going for a job and they use a lot of Angular, you're a React dev, but it's a job, and they say, "Don't worry about it. We'll give you the time to catch up." Then fine, that's fine. But as you go into that team, you've got to learn their development style. You got to learn and fit in there. But what matters most when choosing a framework is don't choose frameworks because they're cool. Choose frameworks because you can be productive and choose when you're learning lessons, right? Um, don't make things harder on yourself because it's the cool new thing is good. But if you've got to build a product, evaluate, okay, is the thing I'm using deprecated? Is it like 20 years out of date? In which case, I'm not using it, right? But is it like cutting bleeding edge? Does that matter? Like for Liquid Sky, this is not a this is not a product that has customers. This is not something I have to worry about. Um, so I can choose to pick up technologies that are maybe a little bit more risky. I can choose to play with things because I'm doing it in the safety of my own Docker containers, right? I picked up Angular because I have more experience with Angular. I don't like fighting things with Blazor, like the whole server client WebAssembly stuff just doesn't fit right with me. I just don't have a good time with that. And I understand Angular enough. Now I know there's components in Angular now with there's more server-side rendering stuff. There's more of that piece. I haven't learned that piece, but I don't need to learn that piece to be doing this. Is this the best produced Angular application ever? No, it's not. I understand that. I realize that, but I've made that compromise and I'm picking my own battles. Um, yeah, Black Arrow, how you doing? So I can learn as I need to on this. But if you're doing it for a business, don't be picking frameworks that are contrary to the frameworks the rest of the developers use, because you introduce problems. Like, be productive. So yeah, whether you like Blazor, whether you like Angular, whether you like React, whether you like Vue, Next, etc., that can be your personal project stuff. But good, but kind of confused. And you? I'm good. I'm good. So components, I just don't think we've found the best way to do them yet. And again, someone will come along, they'll have an opinion on how to do something. Someone will come and try and use it. They'll misinterpret it. They'll decide it's bad. They'll build their own version and say this is now how components are done. Someone will come along, misinterpret it, decide it's bad, build their own version of it. This is how software works continually, right? Because software is often developed in the focus of the people who are developing it. Yeah. And for every problem we solve, we create 5 more, or we find new problems because it exposes different options. Cycle repeats. So pick a technology. If you've got to build something that's got to go into production, don't be picking bleeding edge technologies. Don't be picking technologies you know are at risk of changing rapidly. Don't pick Google technologies because they seem to drop them. You know, he says using Angular. Yeah, I was an Angular JS developer to begin when well, I picked up Angular JS as the first platform we used, and then with the expectation that they would allow the upgrade. Okay, so it is. We are on that time, sadly, where fortunately I am not paid enough by Twitch to make this a full-time thing, or paid by those people who are supporting the stream. So we are going to. I'm not raiding into a 120 person stream. That's not happening. Oh, we've been supporting this guy for a long time. He's building a game. So I'm gonna raid out shortly. I'm terrible at shoutouts. Um, you get there, Black Arrow. You'll get there. Thanks, Trap. Um, my shout out we're lacking today. One Lion must be doing that work thing. And One Lion's been doing the shout outs for me for the last couple of weeks, which has been really helpful because I'm really bad at giving shout outs. But One Lion is another .NET developer. If you like this sort of content, if you like .NET dev, if you like conversation and a more chill stream, he is a fantastic developer. He's building a lot of different things on stream. Currently working on. Yeah, I figured you were. Don't worry about it. Um, um, Completely lost my train of thought then. Yeah, follow One Line. We are going to raid Fullbots today. Fullbots is developing a game called Block Shop. It is, I think he's actually just released it because it's Steam Next Fest and it's gone into the Steam Next Fest. So it is highly worth checking out if you like puzzle games. It is an interesting little game to play and quite challenging. And so we're going to give him some support today. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll continue on this. We'll get the sprints added. We'll start to talk more about that, and we'll try and figure out what execution looks like as far as a component, and figure those things out. So, yeah, I'm one away from 1,100 followers on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget the like button helps. Albino, thank you very much for being number 1,100. That is my goal. Thank you very much. Thank you for the chat as well. So yeah, you know, as I grow this application, I want more. I'd like to get people's feedback. If you use this sort of software, not well, if you use Jira and this sort of software, that feedback is always welcome. Um, I'm not trying to build a competing product. I'm trying to build something I think represents the way that I think things should work. And if I can turn this into a real product, I will do. But right now, it's just here's a real product. Here's a large application that I'm building, and I'm sharing that on Twitch and YouTube every day. So thank you for joining me. Can I ask you a question? You can. Unfortunately, I do have to go. I have a job to start. There is a Discord if you want to jump in the Discord. I'm always open to chats in there. My dream is something more than Trello, less than Jira, and easy to configure than Notion. But yeah, you can if you like, you can jump in Discord and yeah, I know they expect me to do work and they expect me to turn up on time and attend meetings and stuff. It's really inconvenient. It gets in the way of the streaming. Believe me, if I could, I would stream a lot more. Because I love doing this. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, I gotta go. Thank you very much for joining me today. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye all.